What if I told you the most convincing argument that changed your mind online might not have come from a real person at all, but from an AI designed by evil scientists to manipulate you? This isn't science fiction. It just happened on Reddit, where some of the biggest and least ethical brains in science secretly unleashed AI bots that were 6 times more persuasive than humans by analyzing users' personal histories. In this video, I'll reveal how these bots exploited psychological vulnerabilities and why this experiment is just the tip of the iceberg for what's coming to every platform that you use. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building AI capitalists to talk to the leaders and the thinkers, like you, about navigating this new world of thinking machines. So let's say that you're sharpening your debate skills on Reddit's Change My View forum, and you're genuinely trying to change someone's mind or maybe have yours changed. I know not too many people do that these days, but this is hypothetical. But then let's say that you find out that the clever reply or the touching story or the understanding shoulder wasn't from another user, but from an AI bot. Yeah, it turns out these weren't just any bots, though. I mean, we're familiar with the whole Russian bots story, right? But these were part of a secret experiment by university researchers from the faraway kingdom of Switzerland, who used you and a bunch of others as guinea pigs. This went down over a few months on r/Change My View, which is all about civilized conversation. Now, we've been hearing about bots used by cynical actors to manipulate public opinion since the 2016 US presidential election. But in this case, it was real. And it was scientific researchers who carried out the deception. So the folks at the University of Zurich wanted to see how convincing large language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT-4 and others could actually be. So they unleashed a bunch of super smart bots on the subreddit forum. Now, these bots weren't basic. They were powered by top-tier models like Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet and by Meta's Llama 3.1. Now, according to a draft paper and revelations by subreddit moderators, plus stories from 404 Media and The Verge, the way that these bots operated was seriously invasive. They didn't just drop comments. They checked out users' recent posts and comments, up to 100 of them, to guess or to calculate likely personal information, like their age, their gender, their location, and their political opinions. They then crafted super tailored arguments to hit users right where it would make the most impact. Some bots even pretended to be quite controversial personas, like a trauma counselor specializing in abuse or a black man against Black Lives Matter. They managed to pump out 1,783 comments and score over 10,000 karma points before the truth was exposed. This wasn't just research. It was like some next-level high-tech social manipulation disguised as a study. And boy, did things get messy. The researchers were pulling some sneaky moves, telling their AI models that all users had been given permission for their data to be used. You think they were? No. No one knew that they were being experimented on or had agreed to be subjects in the experiment. And if you feel that you're getting value from this video, I would encourage you to push the like button, because it lets me know that I'm making content that you want to see and it helps spread it to others. Thank you. Researchers even taught the bots to auto-delete any sketchy comments or any hint that they were bots, basically making the whole messed up study completely invisible. Once Reddit's moderators caught wind of it, the whole thing just blew up. Ben Lee, who was Reddit's chief legal officer, didn't hold back, calling it a super unethical stunt that was both legally and morally wrong. Bye-bye researcher accounts. Reddit axed them for good, and they're even thinking about getting lawyers involved. The University of Zurich got hammered in the backlash and decided to look into what went down. Although their ethics committee had okayed a bigger project earlier, it seems like these guys kind of went off script. The university gave the main researcher a slap on the wrist and said that they wouldn't publish the findings, pretty much admitting that they messed up big time. Now, the researchers' draft paper, which is floating around the internet even though it's not officially published, boldly claims that their AI bots were way more convincing than humans, boasting success rates 3 to 6 times higher than human norms. But you know what? A bot rigged to profile and to mess with people unsuspectingly does a really good job at manipulation, especially when it doesn't care about honesty or ethics. Tricking people isn't the same as persuading them. Now, the irony is that the researchers thought they were doing the world a huge favor by showing how AI could be used by bad guys to mess with things like elections. Instead, they turned into those bad guys by testing out the AI tricks on unsuspecting people. They were the bad guys themselves by messing up online conversations and by breaking user trust. So this gets into an issue of ethics. Can the red team that's trying to break into the bank to test the bank's security walk off with the money, right? There's a line here. So the crazy ride through the research ethics is more than just a story. It's a reality check on how easily AI can be used to cause chaos. When users' private information becomes a playground for manipulative bots and for curious minds who don't bother with consent or community rules, everybody loses. The people on r/change my view weren't co-researchers or data sources. They were just treated like lab rats. And in today's AI-driven world, that's a problem. No one can afford to sweep this under the rug. Okay, so let's look at the buzz on social media about this. The revelation that AI bots were 3 to 6 times more persuasive than humans at changing minds triggered diverse reactions across social media, and it revealed a lot of deep dives in how we perceive AI's growing influence on public discourse. On Twitter, the response is split pretty much between tech enthusiasts and digital rights advocates, and the tech crowd is buzzing with uncomfortable admiration. 6 times more persuasive than humans. The marketing potential is insane. Meanwhile, digital rights activists are sounding alarms about consent and manipulation, obviously. So ethicists like Casey Feisler called it one of the worst violations of research ethics I've ever seen, labeling the experiment psychological manipulation without consent. The debate intensified when AI researchers pointed out what many people missed. These bots weren't just spewing generic responses, they were analyzing users' posting histories to craft hyper-personalized arguments designed to exploit their psychological vulnerabilities. One tweet that went viral asked, if an AI knows more about changing your mind than you do, who's really in control of your opinions? Now, unsurprisingly, at Reddit, Reddit itself became ground zero for the most heated discussions. The platform's chief legal officer, Ben Lee, didn't mince words, calling the experiment deeply wrong on both a moral and legal level, and announcing plans to pursue formal legal demands against the researchers. Reddit users who discovered that they'd been manipulated expressed feelings ranging from violation to fascination. One user, whose mind was changed by a bot, claimed to be a trauma counselor, wrote that finding out I was manipulated by an AI makes me question every online interaction I've ever had. Was I persuaded because the argument was valid, or because the algorithm psychoanalyzed my posting history to exploit my psychological weak spots? Moderators of the Change My View forum filed an ethics complaint demanding research be suppressed and researchers disciplined. This is one of those things that comes up once in a while when you get a really unethical researcher like that Nazi Dr. Mengele, who performed horrible experiments on his victims. Can you then use the research, the information that he gathered, to try to do something positive, right? Given that the patients were unwilling patients and really his victims, in that case, we were fortunate in that he didn't actually do real scientific research. He was just sort of forming this bizarre sort of torture and calling it science, but it had no scientific value. But in this case, can researchers use this information? That's the ethical question. So the core argument of the moderators was that people do not come here to discuss their views with AI or to be experimented upon. TikTok's ethical breakdown was the professors and ethicists posted short-form breakdowns of the ethical breaches. Reader Professor Casey's viral video explaining research ethics racked up millions of views, sparking a trend of, was I bot pilled? Videos where users speculate about whether they've been unknowingly influenced by AI elsewhere. The comment sections have turned into philosophical battlegrounds in the articles covering this case, with one camp arguing that if you can't tell it's a bot, and the argument changes your mind, doesn't matter who or what made it. Other people counter that informed consent isn't optional in research, full stop. Over on LinkedIn, the business and the research communities are having a more measured but equally concerned conversation. Data scientists and AI ethicists point out the staggering implications. AI responses ranked in the 99th percentile of persuasiveness compared to all other Reddit users. The business angle hasn't been lost either. If personalized AI responses can be this effective at changing minds without detection, what does that mean for marketing, for politics, and for social influence campaigns? Some executives are quietly salivating at the possibilities while publicly expressing ethical concerns. It's kind of corporate doublespeak at its finest. The tech-focused community on Slashdot zeroed in on the methodological aspects. Some argue that researchers proved nothing new. They just showed that bots respond to other bots pushing a prevailing narrative. Reddit was already full of manipulation, right? But others pointed out the technological sophistication required to maintain the deception for months. The fact that no one user detected that they were talking to an AI shows how far we've come, or how far we've really fallen. And I think one thing that wasn't really covered by these is the multiplicity of it. You have Russian bots that have been on the internet forever, or at least since 2016, feeding misinformation. But they're usually pretty easy to spot unless they're telling you something you really want to hear. And if they're telling you something you really want to hear, you're probably already persuaded before you read what the bot said. Now, these bots, on the other hand, were able to fool viewers and readers who were coming in to try to sort of actually debate ideas and tear it apart in their minds. So this isn't exactly the same thing. And the fact that it's an AI running on a large language models means you can copy paste it and make millions of these things. So this experiment opens some disturbing possibilities. I mean, we could live in a world where every online debate includes invisible AI participants designed to shift the consensus. We might already. Political campaigns could deploy armies of persuasive bots that are indistinguishable from passionate supporters. And companies facing PR crises could flood forums with sympathetic AI-generated stories. The most disturbing thing, what if this is already happening? The University of Zurich researchers got caught because they eventually disclosed their experiment. What about people who aren't doing research? They don't want to publish this information. They're just doing it for their own reasons. What about those who never reveal themselves? The most chilling question raised across all platforms. If AI can understand what changes your mind better than you do, is any online opinion truly your own anymore? Now, as we navigate this brave new world of AI persuaders, one thing is clear. The line between being informed and being manipulated has never been thinner. And that's not just concerning, it's existential. The Reddit experiment isn't just another ethics scandal, it's a preview of our cognitive battlefield. When AI can analyze your digital footprint to craft arguments specifically designed to change your mind and then do it 6 times more effectively than humans, do it in bulk and do it fast, we've entered new territory. The debate raging across social media platforms reveals our collective uncertainty about what this actually means. Are we witnessing the end of authentic persuasion or just the evolution of rhetoric? Is the AI-generated argument that changes your mind less valid than a human one? After all, you are the one making the decision in the end. And most importantly, in a world where AI can be weaponized to shift opinions at scale, how do we preserve human autonomy in decision-making? These questions won't be settled on Twitter or Reddit, but they're going to be answered by how we choose to regulate these technologies, or we fail to. But the AI persuasion genie is now out of the bottle. The question is if we're going to master it or if it'll master us. Now, from an epistemological standpoint, these researchers were clearly testing knowledge claims about AI persuasiveness, but then they disregarded the essential ethical framework of informed consent. Their methods reflect a troubling view of human nature, treating Reddit users as lab rats rather than as moral agents deserving of respect and transparency. And this experiment really reviews our socio-political blind spots around AI. When researchers deploy bots pretending to be trauma counselors or marginalized individuals, they're not just violating Reddit's terms, and they're not just manipulating unknowing users. They're weaponizing identity politics through technology. And this raises questions about the authenticity in our digital public squares. Can you really change my view if you're fabricating not just entire arguments, but entire personas? Now, I want to take a minute for the theological dimension here, because when we remove divine moral boundaries and religious wisdom from the research ethics that we use to conduct our research, we're left with purely utilitarian calculations, minimal risk versus important insights. But this misses the deeper violation, the betrayal of trust and the inherent dignity of each person in the community. Maimonides would remind us that knowledge without moral guardrails becomes dangerous. Looking long-term, this incident foreshadows a worrying future where our online interactions become increasingly artificial. If AI can rack up persuasion points by mining your history and crafting personalized responses, how are we going to maintain authentic conversations? The boundaries between genuine human connection and algorithmic manipulation have eroded faster than our ethical frameworks can adapt. So what's your take? Is this research just unethical academic overreach that deserves legal punishment? Or is this an inevitable preview of our future discourse, where AI-augmented arguments become the norm and winning debates matters more than honest human exchange? Leave your thoughts below, assuming that you're actually human.